The movie opens with emotional music playing over a peaceful house beside a lake. A woman named Louise narrates in the background, talking about memory, time, and how certain moments stay with us forever. We then see flashes of Louise's life with her daughter. First, she's holding her as a newborn baby. Later, the two play together while the little girl pretends to be a cowboy. Time keeps moving forward rapidly. Louise tucks her daughter into bed and tells her she loves her, and suddenly the girl is already a teenager struggling with her relationship with her mother. Then everything becomes tragic. Louise takes her daughter to the hospital, where doctors reveal devastating news. The girl has cancer. One of Louise's final memories is watching her daughter die in a hospital bed. After this heartbreaking introduction, Louise walks through the campus where she works as a linguistics professor. While narrating about the simplicity of linear time, she mentions that history can change in only a few days, like the day the aliens arrived. Everyone around the university is panicking and staring at televisions broadcasting breaking news about unidentified objects appearing around the world. But Louise barely pays attention. She calmly walks into her nearly empty classroom and begins teaching. Then suddenly, every student's phone starts vibrating at the same time. One student asks her to turn on the television. The news reveals that a massive object has landed in Montana, while 8 more have appeared in different countries around the world. Moments later, emergency alarms ring throughout the university, forcing everyone to evacuate. While driving home, Louise listens to the radio as reporters confirm there are now 12 extraterrestrial objects spread across Earth. At home, she talks to her mother on the phone. Her mother is worried about the terrifying situation developing across the planet. After hanging up, Louise watches television footage of the giant alien ships hovering over different countries. Nobody understands why those locations were chosen or what connection they share. Still, Louise seems strangely detached from everything and eventually falls asleep in front of the TV. 2 days later, she returns to an almost deserted university campus and continues watching updates from her office. Suddenly, a military colonel enters the room. He introduces himself and reminds Louise that 2 years earlier she translated a difficult Persian recording for the U.S. Army in record time. He praises her skills before placing a recording device on her desk. The tape contains distorted sounds from a team attempting to communicate with the aliens. For the first time, Louise looks genuinely shaken. The colonel asks her what she understands from the recording, but Louise immediately explains that translating something like this is impossible from audio alone. She says language requires interaction, context, and observation. The colonel becomes irritated and tells her that if she can't help from the recording alone, then she won't be going to Montana. But later that night, a helicopter suddenly lands outside Louise's house. The colonel steps out and tells her to pack her bags. They're leaving immediately. Inside the helicopter, Louise meets Ian Donnelly, a theoretical physicist assigned to work alongside her. The two quickly clash philosophically. Louise believes language is the foundation of civilization and conflict resolution, while Ian insists science is more important. As dawn arrives, Louise looks out the helicopter window and finally sees one of the alien ships standing silently above a field near the mountains. Once they reach the military camp, they're put through strict security procedures. Their phones are confiscated, and they're given special identification badges. Doctors run medical tests and vaccinate them before explaining the dangers inside the alien craft. The room where contact occurs has strange gravity and limited breathable air. Once inside, they'll only have about 2 hours of oxygen. Soon, Louise and Ian suit up and head toward the ship for humanity's first true contact. Louise is visibly terrified while Ian can barely contain his excitement. Using a giant mechanical lift attached to a truck, the team rises toward an opening beneath the alien vessel. As soon as they enter, all radio communication cuts out. Gravity inside the ship works differently, making movement extremely disorienting. Eventually, the group reaches a massive chamber with a transparent barrier at the center. They set up cameras and recording devices, preparing for contact. They also bring a small canary bird. The reason is simple. In old coal mines, miners used canaries to detect toxic gases. If the bird died, danger was near. Then suddenly, the aliens appear. Huge shadowy creatures emerge through a thick mist on the other side of the barrier. Their strange whale-like sounds echo through the chamber. Louise freezes in fear as the enormous beings move closer. Back at camp afterward, Louise is deeply disturbed by what she witnessed. Even Ian, who was excited before, is now overwhelmed and vomiting from the experience. The colonel tells them they only have a few hours before trying again. Meanwhile, panic around the world keeps growing. Riots spread, governments begin preparing militarily, and humanity grows more unstable by the hour. During the second visit, Louise brings a whiteboard into the chamber. She writes the word, human, and points to herself, hoping the aliens will respond. At first, the creatures disappear into the fog. Then they suddenly return and produce circular symbols made from black ink like smoke. Back at camp, the colonel pressures Louise for faster results before the world spirals out of control. He reminds her what happened when Europeans first arrived in America and native civilizations failed to understand their intentions. Louise continues building a vocabulary system while learning that China has adopted a much more aggressive strategy toward the aliens. Several other countries are already supporting possible military action. The colonel becomes annoyed when he discovers Louise's progress mostly involves teaching simple words and names. So Louise explains the real challenge. She writes an important sentence on the board. What is your purpose on Earth? Then she explains that before asking complicated questions, both species first need to understand what a question even is. Eventually, the colonel accepts her method. During another visit to the ship, Louise writes her own name on the board. The aliens respond with a symbol. Believing visual communication is essential, Louise suddenly removes her protective suit despite the soldiers panicking around her. She approaches the glass barrier. One of the aliens mirrors her movements. Louise places her hand against the glass, and the creature does the same from the other side. She points to her name again, and the alien produces another symbol. Ian excitedly removes his own suit and introduces himself too. The aliens respond with 2 additional symbols, which Louise believes are their names. The humans later nickname the creatures Abbott and Costello. Back at camp, Louise begins suffering from strange visions involving her daughter. Doctors examine her but find no signs of infection or poisoning. Months pass. Scientists discover the alien ships produce no waste, no radiation, no detectable communication signals, and no clear explanation for why they arrived. Out of all 12 global teams, Louise is the only one making real progress. She slowly realizes the alien-written language doesn't function linearly like human language. Their symbols contain no beginning or end. Past, present, and future seem to exist simultaneously within each sentence. As global panic intensifies, riots and conspiracy theories spread across the internet. Some soldiers at the base begin believing the aliens are dangerous invaders. Louise works endlessly translating the symbols while her visions of Hannah become increasingly vivid. She remembers moments from Hannah's childhood, including drawings about Louise's divorce. Ian notices Louise acting strangely and asks if she's okay, but she can't explain what's happening. Later, Ian discusses a theory stating that learning a new language can physically change the way people think. He even asks Louise if she dreams in the aliens' language. At this point, Louise starts hallucinating one of the aliens standing beside her. The next day, the colonel wakes Louise and asks her to translate a live call from Chinese General Shang. Shang reveals that the aliens are offering advanced technology, and China believes they're decoding the patterns hidden in the language. At the same time, both China and Russia begin mobilizing military forces. The colonel finally tells Louise it's time to ask the big question. Inside the ship again, Louise carefully forms the sentence she spent months preparing. What is your purpose on Earth? The aliens respond. After translating the symbols, Louise reveals the terrifying answer: offer weapon. The military immediately panics. Louise and Ian argue that the translation may be incorrect. In many languages, one word can have multiple meanings. Weapon might actually mean tool or gift. But fear spreads rapidly. Agent Halpern even suggests the aliens may be manipulating humanity into destroying itself through paranoia and division. Soon after, China and Russia completely cut off communications with the other nations. Other countries follow. The fragile global cooperation begins collapsing. Then another message arrives from the aliens, and Louise is asked to decipher it while the military prepares for worst-case scenarios. At the same time, Captain Marks and several radicalized soldiers secretly take a bomb into the alien ship. When they enter the chamber, the timer reveals only 10 minutes remain before detonation. Meanwhile, Louise and Ian unknowingly head back into the ship. Inside the chamber, they ask Abbott and Costello what "offer weapon" truly means. The aliens produce another unclear symbol. Louise asks again. Suddenly, one of the creatures begins violently striking the glass barrier, trying to warn them. Outside, security forces move toward the ship while Marks and his team prepare to resist them with weapons. Then something incredible happens. One alien places its tentacle against the barrier. Louise touches the glass too. Instantly, she experiences another vision of Hannah. But this time, Louise suddenly understands the alien language. She even begins writing symbols using the black mist itself. With less than a minute before the bomb explodes, one alien leaves while the other rapidly covers the entire barrier in symbols. Gunshots echo in the distance. Then, seconds before detonation, the alien slams the barrier, throwing Louise and Ian backward into another section of the ship. The bomb explodes. The alien sacrifices itself to save them. Louise later wakes up back at camp, confused and injured. Alarms blare as the military prepares for evacuation. Ian and the colonel review footage from the last encounter while Louise insists they must explain the bombing to the aliens. Suddenly, everyone outside notices the ship moving position. It still hasn't left Earth. At the same time, China announces it will destroy its alien ship within 24 hours unless the visitors leave. Other nations prepare for war as well. While analyzing the aliens' final message, Ian makes a breakthrough. The symbols aren't complete individually. Each country only received one piece of a larger message. Together, all 12 nations hold parts of the same puzzle. Louise asks the remaining countries to reconnect and share their information, but nobody trusts each other anymore. Russia even murders one of its own scientists to keep their portion secret. Still, Ian proposes a solution. The United States should share its information first to encourage the others to cooperate. He describes it as a non-zero-sum game, where everyone benefits together instead of competing. That phrase suddenly triggers another memory for Louise. She remembers Hannah once asking her about a technical term where both sides benefit equally. At that exact moment, Louise finally understands everything. The visions of Hannah were never memories. They were flashes of the future. The alien's language changes human perception of time itself. Louise runs outside as a smaller module descends from the alien ship specifically for her. She enters it alone and is transported directly inside the vessel, this time standing beside the aliens instead of behind the barrier. Costello approaches and now speaks to her clearly because she finally understands their language. When Louise asks about Abbott, Costello sadly explains that Abbott is dying from the explosion. Louise becomes emotional but says she still needs to help humanity understand the message. Costello repeats the phrase, "use weapon." Louise asks again why they came to Earth. This time, Costello finally answers, "We help humanity." Then he explains that in 3,000 years, their species will need humanity's help in return. Louise asks how they can possibly know the future. Costello responds by showing her more visions of Hannah. Then he explains the truth. Louise sees future. The weapon is actually their language. A tool that allows humans to perceive time non-linearly. Before disappearing into the mist, Costello tells her, "Weapon opens time." The ship lowers Louise back to Earth. The colonel informs her that China, Russia, and several other countries are preparing to attack. As Louise's visions continue, she remembers a future conversation with Hannah about why her father left them. Louise explains that Ian didn't abandon them. Their marriage ended because she told him something he couldn't handle. She had revealed that she already knew Hannah would die from a rare incurable disease. Meanwhile, every alien ship on Earth begins moving as world militaries prepare for battle. Louise's visions become stronger and stronger. In the future, She sees herself writing a book about the alien language while teaching it to others. Then suddenly, in the present, she realizes she can fully read the alien data. She finally understands the true meaning behind the message. The weapon was never a weapon at all. It was a gift. By understanding the alien language, humans begin thinking like the heptapods, perceiving time all at once instead of linearly. The colonel says there's no time left. Evacuation has already begun. Then Louise experiences another future vision. 18 months later, she attends an international celebration where General Shang personally approaches her. He reveals that she once called him during the global crisis and changed his mind about attacking the aliens. Louise says she doesn't know his private phone number. Shang smiles and hands it to her. Now you know. Back in the present, Louise realizes what she must do. Using Agent Halpern's phone, she desperately calls General Shang while soldiers race to stop her. As the call connects, Louise struggles to think of something convincing enough to prevent war. Then she remembers the final words Shang's wife spoke before dying. Louise repeats those private words to him over the phone. Shang is stunned. Ian protects Louise while she convinces the general to stand down and give humanity more time. Soon after, emergency broadcasts reveal that China is withdrawing its military action and will begin sharing information with the rest of the world. One by one, the alien ships peacefully leave Earth's atmosphere. And after the aliens depart, the story Louise saw all along finally begins. Louise and Ian fall in love. They have a daughter named Hannah. Louise already knows every beautiful moment they will share together, and every painful moment that will eventually come. She knows Hannah will die young. She knows her marriage with Ian will collapse after he learns the truth. But despite seeing all the heartbreak waiting in the future, Louise still chooses to live through it anyway. And that is where the movie ends.